The war room of the Vrexel flagship was dark, lit only by the blue glow of star maps. War Master Karvek stood before the holographic display, his 8-foot frame casting long shadows across the metal floor. His scales, dark as midnight, reflected the light like polished armor. Sharp claws tapped against the control panel as he studied the latest conquest reports. Another system falls to the Empire, his second-in-command announced, bowing low. The Pelthari surrendered without a single shot fired. Karvex released a sound between a growl and a laugh. Of course they did. Prey always knows when it faces a true hunter. For 50,000 years, this had been the way of the galaxy. The strong ruled. The weak served. The Vrexel Empire controlled 40% of known space, and every species understood their place in the order of things. At the top stood the Vrexel, perfect predators engineered by evolution itself. Below them came other hunters, each deadly in their own way. At the bottom crawled the prey species, surviving only because they made themselves useful. Karvex had been born into this reality. His earliest memories were of the hunting grounds where young Vrexel learned to track, to kill, to dominate. He still remembered his first real hunt, pursuing a Kelthian across 3 moons, the fear in its eyes when he finally cornered it. The satisfaction of proving himself worthy of his bloodline. That was 40 cycles ago. Now he commanded an entire battle fleet, and his name made weaker species tremble. "Sir, new reports from the outer sectors." A technician called out. Scout ships detected unusual signals from the yellow dwarf system designated Sol 3. Karvex turned, his yellow eyes narrowing. "Sol 3? That's in the unexplored territories." "Yes, War Master. Initial scans show a Category 4 civilization, pre-faster-than-light travel, primitive by our standards." Another prey world, then. Karvex dismissed it with a wave of his clawed hand. Mark it for future annexation. Send a probe to gather data. What he didn't know was that this decision would change everything. Across the galaxy, in the council chambers on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, representatives from 100 species gathered. The chamber was designed to accommodate all forms of life. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some walked, others floated. But they all shared one thing. They all existed at the mercy of the predator species. Ambassador Celine of the Velethri people sat in her designated corner, her moth-like wings folded against her delicate frame. Her people had survived by being useful, by offering their gift for mathematics and navigation to the Vrexel. It was a humiliating existence, but it was existence. Today's council session was routine. Reports of Vrexel expansion, complaints from prey species about excessive tribute demands, a request from the Thornback Raiders for permission to hunt in neutral space, all denied or ignored based on the will of the predator. Representatives. Then came the report that made Celine's antennae twitch with interest. "We have detected a new signal." "Source," announced the council speaker, a massive Vrexel elder named Zaroth, a species calling themselves humans from a planet called Earth. They have achieved basic radio communication and are attempting to reach beyond their solar system. Celine accessed her datapad, pulling up the information. Humans, bipedal, no natural armor. No claws, no venom, no enhanced sensory organs. They looked soft, weak, vulnerable. "Standard protocol," Zaroth declared. "We will monitor them until they achieve faster-than-light travel. Then we will make contact and incorporate them into the proper order." The council agreed without debate. It was always the same. Find a new species. Determine if they were predator or prey. Place them in the hierarchy. The system had worked for thousands of generations. Why would it fail now? But Celine noticed something odd in the data. These humans had no natural weapons, yet they were their planet's dominant species. How? She made a note to investigate further. Months passed. The Vrexel probe reached Earth's solar system and began its observations. The reports came back regularly, and each one made Karvex more certain that humans were just another prey species waiting to be claimed. They were weak. A single Vrexel warrior could tear through dozens of them. They had no scales to protect their soft skin. Their teeth were flat and useless for combat. Their senses were average at best. They couldn't see in the dark like Vrexel. They couldn't smell blood from miles away. They couldn't track prey across continents, yet something bothered him. The reports showed that humans had eliminated or dominated every other predator on their world. Large beasts with fangs and claws. Massive reptiles. Pack hunters. All of them now extinct or controlled by humans. "How does prey defeat predators?" he asked his science officer. Tools, War Master. They compensate for weakness with technology. They build weapons instead of growing them. It's common among prey species, but none of the other prey species eliminated their predators. True, but humans are unusual. They seem to specialize in adaptation rather than a single survival strategy. Carvex filed that information away. Unusual, perhaps, but not threatening. Tools could be taken away. Technology could be destroyed. Natural weapons were forever. Then came the day that changed everything. The communication arrived without warning. Earth had achieved faster-than-light travel. Not fully, just a basic test, but it crossed the threshold. According to galactic law, they could now be contacted officially. The Vrexel Empire immediately dispatched a fleet. Standard procedure. Arrive, demonstrate superiority, accept their surrender, incorporate them into the Empire. Carvex volunteered to lead the mission. He wanted to see these unusual prey creatures for himself. The journey took 3 weeks. When his fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, Carvex expected fear, panic, maybe an attempt to flee. Instead, he received a message. Hello, we are humanity. We come in peace and friendship. We welcome you to our home system. Would you like to meet? Carvex read the message 3 times. Come in peace? Welcome us? This wasn't how prey behaved. They should be terrified. He broadcast the standard dominance protocol, a message that had made 1,000 species surrender immediately. It explained the Vrexel Empire's power, demanded immediate compliance, and threatened consequences for resistance. The human response came an hour later. Thank you for the information about your empire. We have many questions. What is your biology like? How did your society develop? What are your cultural values? We've prepared a space station for our first meeting. We're excited to learn about you. Questions? They wanted to ask questions. Carvex felt something unfamiliar. Confusion. Prey didn't ask questions. They obeyed or they ran. Perhaps they don't understand, his second suggested. They're primitives. They might not grasp the situation. Then we'll make it clear, Carvex decided. Prepare a boarding party. We'll go to this space station and show them what the Vrexel Empire truly means. As his ship approached the meeting point, Carvex noticed the space station's design. It was new, clearly built recently. That meant humans had constructed it knowing the Vrexel were coming. But why? To impress them? To surrender in comfort? The docking bay opened and Carvex led his warriors inside. The atmosphere was breathable, the gravity comfortable. Humans had done their research. Then he saw them for the first time. They were small. So small, they barely reached his chest. Their skin had no protection at all. Their hands had no claws. Their teeth were hidden behind soft lips. They wore clothing, artificial coverings, because their bodies couldn't regulate temperature properly. They looked weak, helpless, fragile. But their eyes showed no fear. Instead, they looked at him with curiosity, with interest, with something he couldn't identify. A female human stepped forward. She wore a military uniform, he could tell that much. War Master Carvex, I presume? I'm Colonel Sarah Chen, representing Earth's United Defense Force. Welcome. We've prepared refreshments and a comfortable meeting space. Shall we begin? Carvex stared at her. This tiny creature showed no submission. She spoke to him as an equal, not as prey to predator. It was wrong, unnatural, insulting, and somehow it made him uneasy in a way he'd never felt before. The meeting room was strange. Carvex had attended hundreds of diplomatic sessions, and they always followed the same pattern. The prey species would sit below, the predators above. The weak would speak quietly, the strong would dominate the conversation. But this room had a round table. Everyone sat at the same level. The humans had even adjusted the chairs so Carvex and his warriors could sit comfortably despite their size. It was considerate. It was also presumptuous. These humans acted as if they were equals. Colonel Chen sat across from him, flanked by other humans. She had introduced them. Scientists, diplomats, military officers. Each one studied the Vrexel with the same curious, fearless expression. Before we begin formal negotiations, Chen said, we'd like to understand your culture better. We've analyzed the data your probe collected, and we have questions. Questions? Carvex leaned forward. You should have statements, specifically statements of surrender and tribute. Chen smiled. It wasn't a submissive expression. We don't understand. Why would we surrender? We've just met you. Because we are Vrexel. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. Look at me. Look at yourself. The natural order is obvious. A human male with dark skin spoke up. Chen had introduced him as Dr. Okonkwo, a xenobiologist. Interesting. You base hierarchy on physical capability for violence. But that's not how apex species are determined in complex ecosystems. Dominance is more complicated. Carvex's claws scraped the table. There is nothing complicated. The strong rule. The weak serve. This has been galactic law for 50,000 years. But who decided that law? Another human asked. And why do you assume it's natural rather than enforced? The questions kept coming. Each one struck at assumptions Carvex had never thought to examine. The humans didn't argue. They didn't challenge directly. They just asked questions that made his certainty wobble. Finally, he slammed his fist on the table. Enough. You are prey. We are predators. This is reality. Accept it or face consequences. Chen's expression didn't change. War Master, we've studied your biology from the probe scans. You're impressive. Enhanced reflexes, natural weapons, excellent senses, pack coordination. You're built for hunting. But may I show you something? Without waiting for permission, she touched a control panel. A hologram appeared showing a Vrexel warrior. Then overlaid on it a human figure. You're right that we're physically weaker. We can't match your strength or speed. We don't have natural armor or weapons. But let me show you what we do have. The hologram changed, showing a human brain. Our brains use 20% of our energy. Yours use 8%. We think more, process information faster, make more complex decisions. We're built for problem solving, not combat. She switched to another image. We also have precision hands, 16 different grip types. We can manipulate tools with extreme accuracy. Can you thread a needle with those claws, War Master? Carvex said nothing. He couldn't, actually. And this is interesting, Dr. Okonkwo added, pointing to another display. Your species evolved to hunt specific prey in specific environments. You're optimized for your niche. But humans evolved to survive anywhere. We spread across our entire planet, from frozen tundra to burning deserts. We adapted to every environment. That's our evolutionary advantage, flexibility, Chen continued. We've also studied your technology. It's impressive, but it's largely focused on warfare and intimidation. You developed faster-than-light travel, advanced weapons, powerful shields. But your medical technology is centuries behind what we've achieved. Your information systems are vulnerable to infiltration. Your manufacturing is inefficient. How do you know this? Carvex demanded. We've been listening to your communications for 3 months. Chen said calmly. Your encryption is good but not perfect. We've decoded most of your military protocols. We've also reverse-engineered your shield technology from passive scans. Would you like to see? Another hologram appeared. It showed a Vrexel shield generator, then a human-built replica. We built this last week. It works on the same principles as yours, but we improved the efficiency by 30%. Carvex stood abruptly. His warriors reached for their weapons. The humans didn't move. They just watched with that same calm curiosity. You dare spy on us? You dare steal our technology? We didn't steal anything, Dr. Okonkwo said. We observed and learned. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. Every advancement humanity has ever made came from observing, understanding, and adapting. It's how we survived on our world. Chen stood as well, though she barely reached Carvex's chest. War Master, we didn't invite you here to surrender. We invited you here to establish mutual understanding. We're willing to share technology, culture, and resources. We're offering friendship. Friendship? Carvex's voice was a growl. Prey doesn't befriend predators. We're not prey, Chen said simply. We're survivors, and there's a difference. She touched her control panel again. The hologram changed to show Earth's history. Images flashed past. Humans hunting with spears, humans building cities, humans exploring space. On our world, we weren't the strongest. The big cats were stronger, we weren't the fastest. The wolves were faster, We weren't the most dangerous. But we're still here, and most of them aren't. Do you know why? Carvex watched the images, disturbed by what he saw. Humans hunting creatures much larger than themselves. Humans building traps. Humans working in coordinated groups with weapons, made of stone, then metal, then materials he didn't recognize. We survived because we adapted, Chen explained. We learned to make weapons better than claws. We learned to build shelters better than scales. We learned to plan further ahead than any predator could. And most importantly, we learned to work together in groups larger and more organized than any pack. Another human, a military officer, spoke up. War Master, you hunt by instinct. You're born knowing how to fight, but we hunt by learning. Each generation teaches the next and we improve. We've been doing this for 200,000 years. Do you understand what that means? Carvex did, and he didn't like it. It meant humans had been practicing warfare longer than the Vrexel Empire had existed. Let me demonstrate, Chen said. She nodded to another officer, who brought out a case. Inside were several objects. She picked up a simple handgun. This is a projectile weapon. It uses chemical reactions to propel a small piece of metal at high velocity. It can penetrate your scales from 100 meters away. She set it down and picked up something larger. This is what we call a rifle. Range, 2,000 meters. This, she lifted an even larger weapon, is an anti-material rifle. It can damage light vehicles from 3,000 meters. She gestured to images on the hologram. We have missiles that can strike from orbit. We have explosives that can level cities. We have nuclear weapons that can sterilize planets. Not because we're violent, War Master, because we're compensating for being weak. Carvex stared at the weapons. The Vrexel had guns, of course, but they preferred close combat, where their natural weapons gave them advantage. They had never needed to develop weapons like these. They were the weapons. Why show us this? He asked quietly. Because we want you to understand us, Chen said. You came here expecting prey. You found something else. We're not asking to join your empire. We're offering an alliance between equals. But we need you to understand what we are. Dr. Okonkwo added. War Master, on Earth we have a saying. The best weapon is the one you never have to use. We're showing you our weapons so we don't have to use them. Carvex looked at each human face. No fear. No submission. Just calm, patient determination. He had seen prey eyes before. These weren't prey eyes. I need to consult with my superiors, he said finally. Of course, Chen replied. Take all the time you need. We're not going anywhere. As Carvex and his warriors left the station, his second whispered, They're bluffing. They must be. They're too small to be a real threat. But Carvex wasn't sure. Something about the humans disturbed him deeply. They had dissected Vrexel society in 3 months. They showed no fear. And worst of all, they had looked at him the way he looked at prey, with analytical calculation. The thought that wouldn't leave his mind. What if we're not the predators in this situation? The Vrexel War Council met in the ancient halls of their homeworld. Carvex stood before the supreme commanders, presenting his report on the humans. The room was filled with the Empire's greatest warriors, each one decorated with scars and honors from countless battles. They claim to want peace, Carvex concluded, but they also demonstrate significant military capability. I recommend cautious engagement. Supreme Commander Vrakoth, oldest and most feared of all Vrexel, released a dismissive hiss. Cautious. They're primitives who just achieved basic space travel. This council has conquered 1,000 worlds. What makes these humans special? Their mindset, Carvex replied. They don't think like prey or predators. They think like survivors who studied both. Irrelevant. Vrakoth stood, his massive frame dominating the chamber. We will demonstrate Vrexel supremacy with a disciplinary raid. A small action to show them their place. Commander Carvex, you seem fascinated by these humans. You will lead the raid personally. Choose a target that will break their spirit. Carvex wanted to protest, but orders were orders. He selected a target, New Terraform, a recently established human colony world. It was small, lightly defended, and covered in dense jungle. Perfect terrain for Vrexel hunters. 3 weeks later, his warband descended to the planet's surface. 200 elite Vrexel warriors against a colony of 5,000 humans. The humans had soldiers, but Carvex had seen their physical capabilities. This should be quick. The human settlement was built in a valley surrounded by jungle. Carvex split his warriors into hunting packs, each one assigned to a sector. They would sweep through the jungle, drive the humans toward the center, then overwhelm them. Standard tactics that had worked on 100 worlds. The first pack entered the jungle at dawn. Within an hour, they encountered a human defensive position, sandbags, primitive obstacles, a few soldiers with rifles. The Vrexel charged, using their speed and natural armor to close the distance. The humans fired, but their bullets barely slowed the warriors. The defensive position fell in minutes. The Vrexel killed several humans and scattered the rest into the jungle. First blood belonged to the hunters. But then things started going wrong. The second pack radioed that they'd lost contact with their scouts. Carvex ordered them to investigate. They found the scouts dead, killed by devices the humans called landmines. Explosive traps buried in the ground. No honor, no face-to-face combat, just hidden death. The third pack walked into an ambush. Humans in trees using long-range rifles shooting from positions the Vrexel couldn't reach. By the time the pack located the shooters, 3 warriors were dead and the humans had vanished into the jungle. Carvex realized with growing anger that the humans weren't fighting the way prey should fight. They weren't running to a safe place. They were hunting his hunters. All packs maintain communication, he ordered. Stay in formation. Don't pursue scattered humans. They're trying to separate us. But the humans had already separated them. The jungle was their territory now. They knew every trail, every hiding spot, every advantage. The Vrexel had superior senses, but the humans had preparation. Pack 4 found more traps. Not just mines, but pits covered with leaves, tripwires connected to falling logs, hidden snares. Primitive but effective. The jungle itself had become a weapon against them. Pack 7 encountered something worse. They heard sounds of wounded humans ahead and rushed forward to finish them. The sounds were recordings. When the pack entered the clearing, explosives detonated from multiple directions. Only 2 warriors survived. Carvex's rage grew with each report. The humans were fighting without honor, without courage. They refused direct combat, preferring ambushes and traps. This wasn't how warriors behaved, but a small voice in his mind whispered, "This is how survivors behave." He led his personal guard deeper into the jungle, determined to find the human command center and end this. His enhanced senses tracked movement ahead. He signaled his warriors to surround the position. They found a small camp with 3 humans. The Vrexel charged. The humans ran. Easy prey at last, except they ran toward something. The Vrexel followed, blood rage overwhelming caution. They burst into a clearing and realized their mistake. 50 humans waited in concealed positions, weapons aimed. The 3 fleeing humans had been bait. Fire, someone shouted. The jungle exploded with gunfire. Carvex's armor saved him. But 3 of his guards fell in the first seconds. He roared and charged the nearest position, covering ground in huge leaps. His claws tore through sandbags. His tail smashed equipment. He killed 2 humans before the others retreated into the trees, but they kept shooting. Always from different positions. Always from distances that made his natural weapons useless. And they were coordinating, talking to each other through radio devices, directing fire to where it would hurt most. Carvex grabbed a fallen human weapon and took cover. This was wrong. This was all wrong. His warriors were being picked apart by an enemy they could barely see. The jungle that should have favored their hunting instincts had become a maze of death. A human voice called out in Vrexel language, "War Master Carvex." "This can stop. Order your warriors to retreat." "We don't retreat," Carvex roared back. "Then you'll keep dying." More explosions, more gunfire, more reports of casualties. Carvex checked his tactical display. Of 200 warriors, only 140 remained combat effective. In 6 hours, the humans had killed or wounded 60 Vrexel. That should have been impossible. A figure emerged from the jungle. Colonel Chen, wearing camouflage clothing, carrying a rifle. She walked calmly across the clearing, stopping 10 meters from Carvex's position. "Let me explain what's happening," she said. "You're apex predators, born hunters, but you hunt by instinct and direct confrontation. We hunt by learning and adaptation. You've been on our planet for 6 hours. We've been studying your tactics from the moment you landed," she gestured to the jungle. "We've watched how you move, how you communicate, how you make decisions. We've analyzed your armor's weak points. We've timed your reaction speeds. We've mapped your psychological patterns, and we've adapted our tactics accordingly. Carvex aimed his captured rifle at her. She didn't flinch. You're thinking about shooting me right now, Chen continued. But there are 37 rifles aimed at you from concealed positions. My death would accomplish nothing except ensuring yours. That's called a cost-benefit analysis, War Master. We do it constantly, do you? Carvex lowered the weapon. What do you want? I want you to understand something. You came here to break our spirit, to show us we're weak. But you've proven the opposite. You brought 200 of your finest warriors against 5,000 colonists, many of them civilians, and we're winning. What does that tell you? That you fight without honor, Carvex spat. No, that we fight to win. Chen's voice was hard now. You think there's honor in using claws against rifles? There's no honor in warfare, War Master. Only survival or death. You've been the top predators so long you forgot that lesson. We never had that luxury. She picked up a fallen Vrexel weapon, examining it. You know what's interesting? Your technology is advanced, but you barely use it in combat. You prefer claws and teeth because that's your nature. We're the opposite. Our nature is weak, so we built weapons to compensate. Not sometimes, always, for 200,000 years. Chen tossed the weapon aside. Your warriors are dying because you're fighting our kind of fight now. Adaptation, technology, strategy. These aren't dishonorable tactics. They're survival tactics, and we're very good at survival. Carvex felt something he'd never experienced, respect for prey. Except these weren't prey. Chen was right. They were survivors who'd turned their weakness into strength. Call for evacuation, Chen said. Get your wounded out. We won't stop you. This doesn't have to be a massacre. Why spare us? Because we don't want to be your enemies. We want to be your wake-up call. She turned to leave, then looked back. The galaxy's hierarchy is based on natural weapons and physical strength. But nature doesn't care about fairness, War Master. It only cares about results. And the results are clear. Thinking beats instinct. Tools beat claws. Adaptation beats specialization. Carvex ordered the evacuation. As his ships lifted off carrying their wounded and dead, he looked down at the jungle. The humans didn't celebrate. They just watched, weapons ready, prepared for anything. For the first time in his life, Carvex understood what prey felt like. And he didn't like it at all. The news of the new terraform disaster spread through the Vrexel Empire like poison. 60 warriors dead, 100 more wounded, defeated by primitive colonists in their own element. The War Council demanded retribution. Supreme Commander Vrakoth called for total war. The humans have challenged our dominance. We will mobilize the full battle fleet and crush their every world. We will show the galaxy what happens when prey forgets its place. Carvex stood in the council chamber, his wounds from the jungle battle still fresh. Supreme Commander, I urge caution. The humans are more dangerous than we understood. Because they hide in trees and bury traps? Vrakoth's laugh was cruel. Those are prey tactics. In open space battle, with fleet against fleet, we will demonstrate true Vrexel power. The vote was unanimous. The Empire would wage war against humanity. But Carvex noticed something. When the declaration went out, several prey species on the Galactic Council reacted strangely. Instead of cowering as expected, they watched with interest. Ambassador Celine of the Velethri even sent a private message to the human delegation. You've given us hope. Please survive. The war began 3 months later. The Vrexel assembled their main battle fleet, 300 warships, each one a masterpiece of predatory design. Fast, deadly, overwhelming. They had never lost a major fleet engagement. The human fleet met them at the system of Kepler 442. Humanity brought 150 ships. Newer, smaller, but equipped with technology the Vrexel had never seen. Vrakoth commanded the Vrexel fleet personally. This will be quick. We outnumber them 2-1. The fleet's close to combat range. Vrexel doctrine called for aggressive attack, using superior numbers and firepower to overwhelm enemy defenses. It had worked for thousands of years. The Vrexel fleet charged forward. The human fleet scattered in all directions. Cowards, Vrakoth roared. They flee. All ships pursue and destroy. But the humans weren't fleeing randomly. They were executing a plan. As Vrexel ships gave chase, human vessels suddenly turned and launched weapons unlike anything the Vrexel had encountered. Missiles that thought for themselves, changing course to avoid defense systems. Electromagnetic pulses that shut down ship systems without destroying them. Cyber attacks that infiltrated Vrexel computers through their own communication networks. Within minutes, the Vrexel fleet's coordination collapsed. Ships lost contact with each other. Weapon systems malfunctioned. Even the flagship suffered computer failures. What's happening? Vrakoth demanded. His science officer worked frantically at a console. The humans are using information warfare. They're attacking our computer networks, not just our hulls. Then switch to manual control. We're trying. But our systems are integrated. Everything runs through the main computer. They designed their attack to exploit that. Carvex watched from his own ship, separate from the main fleet. He'd suspected something like this. Humans thought differently. They didn't just fight with weapons. They fought with information, strategy, and psychology. The battle turned into a disaster. Human ships darted in and out, striking at Vrexel vessels whose weapons couldn't target properly. When Vrexel ships tried to close for direct combat, the humans maintained distance using their superior coordination. Then humanity revealed another surprise. A human admiral's voice broadcast across all channels. Vrexel fleet, we can destroy you now. Your defenses are down. Your coordination is broken. But we're offering one chance, surrender and withdraw. We don't want to kill you. We want you to understand Vrakoth's response was predictable. Vrexel, do not surrender. All ships ramming speed. Several dozen Vrexel vessels obeyed, charging the human lines in suicide runs. Some succeeded, crashing into human ships and destroying them. But most were picked off by human point defense systems. After 6 hours, the battle ended. The Vrexel fleet had lost 80 ships destroyed and 100 more disabled. The human fleet lost 30 ships. It was the worst defeat in Vrexel history. Vrakoth survived, but barely. His flagship limped back to Vrexel space. Its pride shattered along with its systems. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. For the first time in recorded history, prey species spoke openly about rebellion. The Velethri, the Peltari, the Clinari, all of them saw what happened. If humans could defeat the Vrexel, maybe they could too. Carvex attended the session, now promoted to Supreme Commander after Vrakoth's disgrace. He stood before the council, no longer certain of anything. Ambassador Silene approached him privately after the session. You're different now, Commander. The certainty is gone from your eyes. Your species knew, didn't you? Carvex said quietly. You knew the hierarchy was false. You just couldn't challenge it. We survived by being useful, Silene replied. But we always wondered, what if someone came along who was useful and strong? What would happen then? The entire order collapses, Carvex said, understanding dawning. That's what the humans represent. Not just another predator or another prey, something that breaks the categories. The war continued for months. Humanity didn't invade Vrexel space. Instead, they blockaded it. They cut off supply lines, disrupted communications, and waged what they called economic warfare. The Vrexel were powerful warriors, but they'd never developed sophisticated logistics because they'd never needed to. Conquered prey species handled those tasks. Now those prey species began withholding services, not openly rebelling, just becoming less efficient, less helpful. The Vrexel Empire began to crack from within. Colonel Chen contacted Carvex directly. We can end this. Not with more fighting, but with understanding. They met on a neutral station, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. Chen brought Dr. Okonkwo and other human experts. Carvex brought his staff and, reluctantly, several prey species advisors he'd started consulting. Let me show you something, Chen said, bringing up a display. It showed Earth's history again, but focused on different elements this time. This is humanity before we developed civilization. We were weak, slow, had no natural weapons. Every predator on our planet could kill us easily. We should have gone extinct. Do you know why we didn't? Carvex remained silent, watching. We learned to cooperate beyond family groups. We formed tribes, then nations, then eventually a unified world government. We learned that working together made us stronger than any individual could be. That's not a prey trait or a predator trait. That's a survivor trait. Dr. Okonkwo added, every advancement humans made came from collaboration. Fire, tools, agriculture, science, space travel. All of it required people working together, sharing knowledge, building on what came before. That's our real strength, Commander. Not weapons, not tactics, cooperation, Chen continued. The Vrexel Empire is based on domination. The strong rule, the weak serve. But that system is inefficient. You're wasting the potential of billions of beings because you categorize them as prey. What if those species had something to offer beyond service? Like what? Carvex asked. Silene spoke up. The Velethri are natural mathematicians. Our minds process numbers and patterns in ways your species cannot, but we've never been allowed to develop that gift fully because we were too busy surviving. Another prey species representative stood. The Pelthari have artistic abilities that could enrich galactic culture. The Cleanari have medical knowledge that could save lives, but none of us could pursue these paths because we lived in fear. Chen nodded. You built your empire on taking from others. We're proposing something different. Building together, sharing strengths instead of exploiting weaknesses. That's not how nature works, Carvex protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Nature doesn't work any particular way, Dr. Okonkwo said. Nature is adaptation. You adapted to be powerful hunters. We adapted to be intelligent survivors. Both strategies worked, but cooperation works better than either one alone. Chen pulled up another image. Look at this. It's a human city. Millions of people living together, each one specialized in different tasks. Some grow food, some build, some teach, some heal, some create art, some maintain order. Alone, any one of them would struggle. Together, they thrive. That's the model we're offering the galaxy. Carvex stared at the image, seeing something he'd never considered. The Vrexel had conquered through strength, but humans had built something different. Not an empire based on fear, but a civilization based on mutual benefit. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Join us, Chen said simply. Not as servants, as partners. You have abilities we lack. Your strength, your courage, your warrior traditions, these have value, but combine them with our adaptability, other species' gifts, and we all become stronger. And if we refuse, then we continue this war until one of us collapses. You'll probably destroy us eventually through sheer numbers, but the cost will break your empire, and you've already seen that other species are watching. If we can challenge you, they'll believe they can too. Either way, the old order is finished. Carvex looked around the room, at humans who showed no fear, at prey species standing straighter than before, at his own warriors who'd learned to respect an enemy they'd expected to crush easily. The certainty that had defined his entire life was gone. In its place was something uncomfortable but undeniable, doubt. And with doubt came possibility. I need to consult with my people, he said. The debate on the Vrexel homeworld lasted for weeks. The War Council was split. Half wanted to accept humanity's offer of partnership. The other half saw it as surrender, a betrayal of everything Vrexel stood for. Carvex found himself leading the faction that wanted change. It felt strange, almost wrong, but he couldn't unsee what he'd learned. The old ways were breaking down. Better to adapt than to shatter. We built our empire on strength, he told the council. But strength alone isn't enough anymore. The humans prove that. If we don't evolve, we'll be left behind. A hardliner commander named Draxis stood in opposition. You've been corrupted by prey thinking, Carvex. The humans defeated you in battle and now you worship them. I say we gather our full strength and crush Earth itself. Cut off the head of this rebellion before it spreads. The council voted. The result was narrow, but Draxis won. The hardliners would launch one final assault on Earth, demonstrating Vrexel power once and for all. Carvex's objections were overruled. 500 warships assembled, the largest fleet the Vrexel had ever deployed. Draxis commanded, determined to succeed where others had failed. They would strike at humanity's homeworld and end this challenge to the natural order. The fleet arrived at Earth's solar system and found it heavily defended. Humanity had been preparing, building weapons platforms, deploying satellites, setting up defensive networks around their planet. They knew we were coming, Draxis said, unsurprised. The humans always seem to know. All ships attack formation. We will overwhelm their defenses through sheer force. The Vrexel fleet advanced. The human defenses activated. But this time something was different. The human response was more coordinated, more powerful than before. Weapons fire came from unexpected angles. Not just from human ships, but from satellites, from hidden platforms, from positions throughout the solar system. The humans had turned their entire home system into a fortress, and they weren't alone. Ships bearing the colors of the Velethri appeared, offering electronic warfare support. Peltari vessels arrived, providing medical facilities for wounded. A dozen prey species had sent whatever help they could to humanity's defense. The rebellion had spread. Draxis pressed the attack anyway, driving toward Earth itself. They cannot stop us all. Forward! The fleet pushed through the defenses, taking heavy losses but maintaining momentum. They were going to reach Earth. They were going to prove Vrexel's superiority. Then humanity activated Project Cerberus. The defense platforms around Earth weren't controlled by humans. They were controlled by artificial intelligence, computers that thought and reacted faster than any biological mind. Thousands of weapons platforms, all coordinated by machine intelligence, all targeting the Vrexel fleet with perfect accuracy. The slaughter was terrible. Vrexel ships fell by the dozens, unable to evade or counter the computer-controlled defenses. In 20 minutes, the fleet lost half its ships. Draxus refused to retreat. All remaining ships ramming speed. If we cannot conquer Earth, we'll destroy it. But Carvex had prepared for this possibility. He'd contacted Colonel Chen before the battle, warning her about the hardliner attack. Now he arrived with his own fleet, Vrexel, who'd chosen adaptation over tradition. "Draxus, stop this," Carvex broadcast. "You're killing our people for pride." "Traitor," Draxus roared back. "You've betrayed everything we are." "No, I'm trying to save what we can become." The two Vrexel fleets faced each other in Earth's orbit, while the human defenses held fire. Chen's voice came over the communication channel. "Commander Carvex, Commander Draxus, please. We don't want this. Nobody needs to die today." Draxus aimed his weapons at Earth. "You've destroyed the natural order. For that you must be punished." "The natural order was a lie," Carvex said quietly. "I know that now. Strength matters, yes, but strength comes in many forms. Physical power is just one type. Intelligence is another. Cooperation is another. We chose to value only the first type, and it made us blind. Speeches won't save you, traitor." Draxus fired at Earth. His shot was intercepted by Carvex's ship, which moved to block. The blast tore through Carvex's shields, damaging his hull, but it didn't reach Earth. "Stand down, Draxus," Carvex ordered, his ship wounded but still functional. "It's over." The remaining hardliner ships hesitated. Their commander was ready to die for principle, but they weren't. Slowly, they began to withdraw. Draxus, isolated and defeated, had no choice but to follow. The battle ended. Earth survived, and the Vrexel Empire would never be the same. The Treaty of Sol was signed 3 months later. Representatives from every galactic species attended, even those who'd never had a voice before. The chamber was packed with beings of every shape and size, all equal for the first time in 50,000 years. Colonel Chen stood at the podium, addressing the assembly. Carvex stood beside her, symbolizing the new partnership between former enemies. "Today marks the end of the old hierarchy," Chen began. "No more predators and prey. No more strong and weak. From now on, we recognize that every species has value. Every culture has something to contribute, and cooperation benefits everyone." The Galactic Council was reformed. Every species received equal representation. Decisions would be made through consensus, not domination. Technology and knowledge would be shared freely. Military forces would be used for defense, not conquest. Ambassador Silene spoke for the prey species. "For thousands of generations, we survived by making ourselves small, by being useful to our predators. Today, we stand tall for the first time. We thank humanity for showing us that change was possible." Carvex addressed his own people. "The Vrexel were warriors. We still are. But now we fight for something greater than conquest. We fight to protect this new order, to ensure that strength serves justice, not tyranny. Our claws and courage have purpose again, but a better purpose." The treaty included provisions for shared defense, collaborative research, cultural exchange, and economic cooperation. Former prey species would develop their gifts freely. Former predator species would find new roles as protectors rather than conquerors. Dr. Okonkwo established the Institute for Interspecies Understanding, dedicated to helping different species learn from each other. The first graduating class included Vrexel, humans, Velethri, and a dozen other species, all studying together. The changes happened slowly, but they happened. Prey species gained confidence. Predator species learned humility. The galaxy began to realize that the old system had wasted potential, that cooperation produced better results than domination. 10 years after the Treaty of Sol, the galaxy was thriving. Trade increased. Technology advanced faster than ever as different species shared knowledge. Art and culture blossomed as species no longer lived in fear. Carvex served as ambassador to Earth, a position that amazed him daily. He'd learned to appreciate human culture, their strange combination of idealism and pragmatism. He'd even developed what humans called friendship with Colonel Chen, who'd become head of the Galactic Defense Initiative. They stood together on the observation deck of the new council station, watching ships from 100 species come and go peacefully. "Do you miss the old days?" Chen asked. Carvex considered the question. Sometimes. There was a simplicity to knowing your place in the order, but that simplicity was built on suffering for most species. "No, I don't miss it. This is better. It's messier," Chen observed. "Democracy always is, but mess is better than tyranny." A new ship appeared on the sensors. The council received a message from an unknown species making first contact. In the old days, this would have triggered immediate categorization, predator or prey. Now it triggered curiosity. "Should we welcome them?" Carvex asked. "Absolutely. Let's show them what civilization can really be." As they walked to the reception area, Carvex reflected on how much had changed. He'd been born a predator at the top of the galaxy. He'd believed it was the natural order. Then humans arrived and shattered that certainty. Not through superior strength, though they were strong. Not through better weapons, though their weapons were formidable. They did it through a simple truth. Adaptation beats specialization, cooperation beats domination, and thinking beats instinct. The Vrexel had been apex predators, the best hunters the galaxy had ever seen. But hunting wasn't the most important survival trait. Learning was. Changing was. Growing was. Humans hadn't just changed the game. They'd shown everyone that the game itself was a choice and there were better games to play. In the reception area, the new species representatives arrived. Small, tentacled beings who looked nervous. In the old days, they would have been classified as prey immediately. Now Chen greeted them with a smile and extended hand. "Welcome to the Galactic Council. We're excited to meet you and learn about your culture. You're among friends here." The tentacled beings relaxed visibly. One of them spoke and translated speech. "We were afraid you might be like the old stories, empires that conquered and enslaved." "Those days are over," Carvex said, his voice gentle despite his fearsome appearance. "Now we build together instead of taking from each other. You're safe here. More than safe, you're valued." As the welcoming ceremony continued, Carvex caught Chen's eye. She smiled, and he understood the expression now. It meant satisfaction with how far they'd come. Pride in what they'd built together. The Vrexel had been the top predators.